Hi.
Hey, Renee.
So it is the Friday before the Tuesday. So we're both really stressed,
We
but we're
are, we
gonna
are.
we're gonna try
And
to talk about something
and this
not that.
this episode is basically like as soon as it finishes rendering or whatever, it's going up. Like I'm not even gonna do any editing or whatever. I think this is very timely and should be just immediately published.
I agree. So, we could spend the rest of the next 96 hours discussing politics, but we're not going to. We're going to discuss Google.
Surprise!
Yeah, yay. I mean, if you want to hear us talk about politics, let us
I
know.
was gonna say we could totally clickbait people into being like, hey, this episode we're gonna discuss politics. JK, we're just mentioning politics in the first 2 minutes, and
Yeah.
then we're talking about Google the rest of the time.
Which, by the way, Google is its own version of politics in a
No, it
way.
really is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to get all the details of this right, but essentially, Google had a summit where they invited certain content creators from around the world to come to them and discuss the helpful content update with them. Okay.
Okay. So is there a new helpful content update?
Nope,
Is
the
that,
old helpful content
oh, the
update.
old, okay.
Yeah,
So
the
this
one
is the
that
one
destroyed everybody.
that screwed everything over, and that
Yeah.
was back in what, June? No,
No, no. The worst of it was September of
last year, 23.
23.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Um I got hit
So
by the very
that's,
first one
I
and
was gonna
every
say, so
one after
that's
that.
that's how big this ripple effect has been so far, right? Like
Oh,
the
absolutely.
the, the first the pebble was dropped in September of 2023, and then it's just creating a ripple effect. Not even ripples, these are waves. This is
and
like a
honestly,
tsunami.
the first one was in December of 2022.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, and that was the one I got hit in.
Okay.
Yeah. But when things went really bad was September of 23.
Okay.
So this has been going on for a long time. Okay. So they had a summit where they invited people to come
Okay.
and talk to them. It was a small group of people. Okay. So everybody was like waiting to see how this went. Like, and apparently it was quite interesting. And I follow Marie Haynes, and she wrote up a blog post about it. And I'll send you a link to this. You can put it in the show notes, Nadja,
Okay.
to this article. Um, and so I wanted to discuss this just a little bit. I'm gonna kind of be all over the place, so be sure to ask me questions. But
Oh, you know I will.
so here are some random observations that Marie noted from some of the people who attended. And of course, everybody is has been encouraged by Google to discuss it. Um, but there's this guy, his name is Mark Hardaker. I believe he's British, I think. I don't know why I think
Okay.
that, but I'm pretty sure he is. I read his article. The name of his article about the summit is called I Drank the Kool-Aid at the
I drank the Kool-Aid.
2024 at the 2024 Google Web Creator Summit. Okay.
Okay.
Now, here's some stuff about Mike that is interesting to know is that as he stated last year in 2023, he made $250,000 from his blog. This year, he is literally having to go to a food bank to get food because he cannot buy it. He doesn't make enough money anymore to buy food.
Oh my gosh. What's his name? What's the last name? Mike who?
Hardaker,
Hardiker. Okay.
Hardaker. So,
Oh wow, that was totally not how I spelled.
yeah.
Just making notes for myself to add to the show notes.
So, Mike, like I said, he was making about $250,000 a year. Now his money has drained to such a point that he's literally going to food banks. And he's very open about that because 97% of his traffic went away. Now,
Yeah.
the interesting thing about that, and I want people to really wrap their heads around what we're saying here. This is a guy who was making $250,000 from his blog.
Jeez.
Okay. And this is what
Okay.
he did for a
That's a
living
year.
a year. Yeah. From his blog. And now 97% of his traffic is gone
Oh my God.
overnight because of one Google change. And here's the thing that I want you guys to really understand about this too, is that creators like him and creators like me have trusted Google because Google releases a lot of information. They tell us everything we're supposed to know, right? This is
Mhm.
how we want you to create content. This is what we want you to do.
Right,
This
right.
is this is the update that's coming. This is how you avoid being hit by it. This is the update that came. This is how you recover from it. Google has always been very upfront. Okay. So Google kept telling us since December of 2022, here's how you recover from this. There will be recoveries. Here's what you need to do. Here's all the information. And so everybody has been trying to do all the things that they said. Well, now Google says, and I would love to tell you that I am summarizing, but I'm not. Google says, you probably should just move on. You're probably not going to recover.
Oh, that's
And
awful.
one of the Google guys, his name is Danny Sullivan. He is a liaison between creators like us and
Uh-huh.
Google. And he works for Google, but his job is to be a liaison. All right. Danny said that to this guy, he looked at Mike's website and he said, your content is not the issue. And someone else at Google said, I suspect that there's a lot of great content you guys are creating that we are not surfacing to other users, but I can't give you any guarantees. Unfortunately, we are focused on things for our users, and that is not going to change. Then Danny Sullivan said, the whole format of search results has changed. Now, that's obviously true. If you use Google, you'll see AI responses.
Yeah.
Everything has changed. And that's true. But this was a switch that went off. And the question that you have to ask yourself is, why are websites like Forbes and Business Insider, why are these the websites that now show up in Google? Why is there so much Reddit? Oh,
Right.
wow. Reddit made this deal with Google. There's a lot of weird shit going on. And you got to wonder. So here they address the Forbes thing. In regards to Forbes, this is what Mike said. Google's not, okay, hold on. This is what Mike said that they told him about Forbes.
Okay.
Google Signals can be better at figuring out topical authority type stuff, which they are struggling to do at the moment. I think this is interesting considering the blog post that Mike just wrote about how Forbes lost ranking in some topic experts. Let me explain. This whole Forbes thing is confusing, but Forbes basically breaks every single rule that Google says we're not supposed to break. For
Mm-hmm.
example, they will update their blog post to say the year without in their title. So, like, they'll change it to 2025, blah, 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 but they don't change the content. So, the content isn't really relevant to 2025. They just know that people are going to be searching for best motorcycle in 2025. So, they
Right.
change their old list and they just put the title in there and they don't make any other changes and Google still ranks it.
Well, I was gonna say, then that defeats the purpose of. Okay, continue. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Danny said to this woman named Kim, um, Danny said, there's nothing wrong with your sites. It's us. So it's us as in it's Google and
Mm-hmm.
they know it, but they're not going to change anything. Someone asked Danny what he'd do if he had a website hit by the HCU, and Danny said, I would do something else in the meantime. In other words, go get a job. And if you listen to this, you're like, oh, boo hoo, you're going to have to go get a job now. If you've been blogging maybe for like 10 years or more, and that's how you made a living, and maybe you had a team of people that worked with you, and suddenly your
Mm-hmm.
content is gone overnight, you don't just feel sad for a blogger. These people had built a business. We had built a
Mm-hmm.
business
Mm-hmm.
around this concept. You know, Usually if there are signals of what is happening with the internet and you can make adjustments. But there was no signals for us. There was none of that.
Yeah.
It's just terrible. People working at Google denied there was a problem and were clueless how to fix it. Somebody named Morgan said that someone that worked at Google said, if you were hit by HCU, do not expect a recovery anytime soon. An update to Google is coming very soon, but don't expect it to be a recovery for people that were hit by the HCU. So,
This is so depressing.
oh, it's awful. Somebody said that they feel like they went to a funeral for Google.
Yeah, no, that's totally what it feels like. So is there like a silver lining to any of this, or it's just all gloom and doom and content creators are just kind of left
So,
in the lurch, I guess? Like,
yeah,
what are
yeah.
content creators supposed to do now?
So Marie said in her article here, she said, "What can we learn from all of this?" She said Google invited these creators because they had good sites. This is why they were invited because they had good sites, right? So
Hmm.
Google so that Google could learn from them and possibly improve and recognize more types of helpful content. So it's like the engineers were there going, what makes your content helpful? What makes this other content bad? Like Google's asking the creators,
Hmm.
what do you think is good?
Yeah.
Dude, obviously we think it's good because they published it. It's a rough time. And I say all this because I know it sounds like I'm whining and complaining, but this is this is a change in the internet. This is a change in the economy. And
Hmm.
Google is saying, we're not bringing it back. So, and for a long time they were saying, we're going to fix this. We're going to make this better. You guys just do these things to improve your content and it's going to come back. And so now they're saying it's not coming back. We're going to move on past these sites and you should too. And so it's an entire economy.
Yeah.
And so it's a really big deal that they did this and they said all this. It's some wild stuff. And I think a lot of creators have already moved on just because, like this guy, it that lost 97% of his. We lost. I guess we're in better shape because I lost 85% of my traffic. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it could have been worse, but let me tell you, you can't make a living on that last little bit.
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I. It is nothing but sadness. Now, here's an ironic part about all of this that I think is really kind of funny. This woman Marie Haynes, her and I have become like actual friends. And
Okay.
so her and I were talking about it today and she was like, Renee, she's like, my advice to you is to give up, which is a sad thing and a hard thing for her to say, but that was her advice to me. And I was like,
Hmm.
honey, I've already given up on Google. you know, but and she said, for example, and this is so ironic, but she said, for example, ChatGPT now gives search results if you ask for them. And she said, so why would anyone, this happened in real time. This is so funny. She said, why would anyone go to your website when they can do a search in ChatGPT for how to make sour cream
Hmm.
and they get the answer right there? And then she came back and she sent me a screenshot of her result. And she said, well, maybe I don't know a damn thing because the very first thing that you see in ChatGPT is a link to Cooking Choose recipe for, yeah, I know. She's like, I don't know.
Hey,
She's like, I don't
there you
know what
go.
to say. She's like, I did not expect that.
Okay,
And
so the fact that you're bringing up ChatGPT, I think it's really interesting because so we have friends who's, they have kids around the same age, but one of our friends, her daughter is 14, right? So 14 years old in high school. Okay. So high school
mm,
and the way that 14-year-olds now utilize resources is very different from us
yes, sure.
because, like we still go to Google, a search engine, and we look for stuff.
Hmm.
She
Yeah.
very rarely uses Google unless she's looking for a specific website. Um, the 14-year-olds or the high schoolers, they're using ChatGPT
Are they?
because
Wow.
because it's simple. It's on her phone. And so all she says is, she asks it her question
Hmm.
and then it spits out a response.
Hmm.
And then if she chooses to go down the rabbit hole a little bit further, then she just continues the conversation. But like it blew my mind that her first instinct, we were trying to think of an actor's name, right? Um, because we were like, oh, they've been like in these movies. I can see their face. I can't remember the name.
Yeah.
They were linked to blah blah blah. And she just goes into ChatGPT. Whereas me, I'm like typing into Google, um,
Yeah.
like actors in these movies, or I'm looking at IMDb. You know, like our approaches were very, very different.
Well, and to your point, like here in the article, Marie says search is changing, the world is changing.
Hmm.
Search is really changing rapidly. And she says, I want you to know something too. I should have given a little more context to who Marie is. She is a literal expert in Google
Right.
and in the Google helpful content update. She is like Google reaches out to her and discusses these things with her. She's an actual expert.
Yeah.
So, I believe that the HCU impacted sites are the start of a significant civilization level change. That's what Marie said. We're already seeing news publishers closing down. Many businesses that rely heavily on organic search are struggling. My husband has a saying, I don't like it at first, but I'm starting to get it now. It's happening for you, not to you. For many of you who are reading this, I believe that it may be time to look for other ways to use your talents and skills. That's a big statement from someone whose
Yeah.
professional career is built on helping you rank in Google. That is a huge statement. So she said in the year 1900, 41% of the workforce was employed in agricultural. Think about that, right? The Industrial Revolution changed that. We are at the start of a new revolution as AI changes how we live. So you're right. That 14-year-old will not use Google.
Mm-mm.
That's not going
Yeah.
to be how the world works. And that is wild to
It
consider
is
that we
wild.
are, and now this is why we talk about it so much, because we know that we are at the beginning of a new age. You and I know that. We realize it. And our trick and our goal, mine in particular, I think your situation is a little bit better than mine right now, is that how do we live through it and thrive through it,
Hmm.
right? And I think it's such an interesting time.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, and it's curious too because my kids are a little bit younger than the 14-year-old. You know, mine are um 10 and 12, and
yeah.
the way that they look up information is the way that we teach them, which is go to Google and do a search or whatever, but then
Mm-hmm.
don't, like, make sure. And that's the other thing. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, the way that we are teaching, the way that me and my husband are teaching our kids to look up information, now that I'm actually breaking down the steps in the process, I'm like, it is very cumbersome. It does seem like it's so much easier to just go to ChatGPT or go to a chat AI and ask it directly, because the steps would be, okay, open your web browser, go to google.com, type in your search inside of Google. Do not click on anything that's a sponsored link, because those are just they've
Yeah.
paid to be at the top. And then scroll down and then take a look at the like what other people are asking. But then also, like, right underneath that, make sure that you're looking at the websites that they're showing you, and
Mm-hmm.
then determine if that is a reputable source. Like, that's a lot of steps.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and this is why I am not convinced that blogging, I know everything I've said is very pessimistic, but I'm also not convinced that blogging is going to die completely,
Hmm.
because if you teach them to only go ask ChatGPT, then you don't have any control in what the source data is, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't think that we all want to be robots taking in just one, we get one answer to the same question and we don't know how we got there. We don't know
Yeah.
what why exactly they gave us the answer that they gave us.
Hmm.
I'm just not convinced that that is going to be the only way people want information. I'm just not convinced. I think it's a novel. I
Sure.
think it I think it also has a really good place in certain parts of things. Like I will not create another unless I just keep bringing it up over and over again in a recipe and I think it would be useful to my reader. I'm not going to create another FAQ style piece of content like I used to make a lot of money. I mean, I have made a tiny fortune, and I do mean a tiny little baby fortune, because it's just one article. But one of my best paying articles ever is how to reheat crawfish.
Oh, okay.
I know it's random.
It is random.
That was before 2023. I didn't make jack shit with it in 2023, which is the
Sure.
point. Or I'm sorry,
Yeah.
in 2024, which is the point because now you can get a pretty standard, reliable, step-by-step answer to that question
Hmm.
from all kinds of different AI. So this year,
Yeah.
I didn't make any, I don't know if I made $1 with that
Hmm.
article. When before that, I would make, several thousands off of that article every August.
Yeah.
That article's dead to me now. That's
Okay.
not that that kind of stuff is now, in my opinion, is the kind of thing like the movie example or the actress example that is a great use of AI.
Hmm.
I think what we have to figure out as people and as content creators is what do they want? What do people want AI to answer, and what do they still want a human to answer?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like this is very reminiscent of like every time there's a big technological overhaul, like,
Mm-hmm.
from um I mean, I'm a little bit younger than you, but I remember the transition from
Considerably younger than me.
just a little
Yes.
bit. It's just a little
Okay.
bit.
Okay.
Like I remember the transition from VHS.
Oh, sorry. That was my water.
That's fine. VHS to DVD, right?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, "Oh, that's kind of weird. Like, oh, how how is that reliable and how is that transition, like these DVD players are so expensive right now and all that kind of stuff, right?" So I watched the transition from or I experienced the transition from VHS's yeah, VHS's to DVDs, and then from DVDs to what was the one that disappeared before Blu-rays
Oh.
came out? Laserdisc.
Oh yeah. I never even
Okay, so we
had
went
that.
we went from
Yeah.
DVDs, Laserdisc snuck in there and then disappeared, and then Blu-rays became the thing, right? And
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
watched the transition from like cassette tapes
Yep.
to not even MP3 players. Like it went from cassette tapes to the were they
I
mini
love how you're
disc?
saying the word cassette. I've never heard anybody say it like that before.
Oh, I don't, it's the Australian in me coming out.
Oh, okay.
I probably haven't said that word since I lived in Australia and had a really thick Australian accent. So I don't, my mouth doesn't know how to form the words the
I have
American
never
way.
heard you with an Australian accent. That is interesting. Okay. I love it.
Wait, how was I saying a cassette?
Cassette. I can't even say it like you.
Cassette.
Cass.
Is
I
it,
guess.
how do you say it?
Well, let's see. How do I say it? Cassette.
Cassette. Okay. See, now I don't know how to
I
say it.
know. Now we're all messed up. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, so from that to like the mini discs.
Yeah, I
'Cause I
had a
used to
mini
have,
disc.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had a mini disc player, and then it went to the MP3 players, and then
Yep.
it turned into the iPod, and then streaming
Streaming.
and all that kind of stuff. So, you're watching each transition of like a technological advancement. But the one that was really sticking out in my mind was text messaging. When texting
Mm.
was first starting to come out, I remember thinking back when I was, I don't know, I was in high school, freshman in high school, maybe junior high. I don't know. But
Sure. Yeah.
eight between seventh and ninth grade or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the transitory period where
That sounds about
texting
right.
was
Yeah.
building up steam, or not even building up steam, but texting was becoming like, oh, here's like the phone plan offers texting. And then I distinctly remember at the time thinking, that seems so stupid. Like, why would you just send a message when we have beepers? Because
Yeah.
you could send a text message with a beeper, and not everybody had a beeper, but also not everybody had a cell phone too. So, you were like very privileged and very very
Sure.
lucky to have these devices on hand, right?
Hmm.
But I just remember thinking that's so dumb because not everybody has this stuff. And I would only be able to text with other people who had cell phones, and not all of my friends had cell phones, but
Yeah.
everybody had a house phone, so I could call them. And it just seemed like a really stupid thing that they were trying to make popular. It's very reminiscent of the Mean Girls, where Gretchen says she's trying to make fetch, the word fetch, like popular slang or whatever.
Right.
And then Regina's like, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen. So for me, it was like, stop trying to make texting happen. It's not going to happen. And then now that's my preferred form of communication.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm not saying that eventually search won't go
Right.
away.
Yeah.
It very well might, but
Yeah.
I don't think, I think perhaps the way that ChatGPT is doing it, which honestly is the same way that Google is doing it,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think you'll have an AI response and then some other choices. We
Mm.
like choice. We love a
Yes, we do.
buffet. I mean, we like choice.
But we need to be provided the right amount of choice, because too
Right.
much becomes overwhelming and then you
Right.
just stop. Like
Right.
it freezes you, because that's the way I get. And I know a lot of people, like when you go to the Cheesecake Factory, you have so many options. That's one of the reasons I hate eating at the Cheesecake Factory, because there's too many options.
Yeah, their
And so
menu's heavy.
yeah, and I always end up getting the same damn thing every single time, because I'm like, you know what, I'm going to try something new this time. And as I'm, flipping through the 15th page of the menu, then I'm like, I'm just going to stick with what I normally get.
Yeah, I do love that menu, but you're right. I always end up with the same thing too. It's been a long time
Hmm.
since I've been there though.
Yeah, it's been a
Um,
long time since I've been in the shoe. I do
yeah,
love their cheesecakes.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I think Marie is right,
Hmm.
but she also says if you want to keep going, here are the things to ask yourself, which I'll let people go through that list themselves. But I think that the strange part about this Google event to me is what was the point? What was the point of bringing all of these starving bloggers, literally,
Hmm.
to across the world to this place to have engineers sit down with them and talk to them and go, yeah, you're right. Your blog is awesome. It's a real
Yeah.
shame it doesn't show up in search. This is some
Hmm.
really good content. Go you. It's a real shame, but we're not going to show it anymore. I know we used to show it, you know, millions of times a month,
Yeah.
and people liked it and they would go there and your bounce rate was not horrible. I know. And look at that. My God, that's a helpful article. You're right. Sorry. It just makes no sense. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't understand why they keep doing the things that they do. I understand Google has the right to make changes. It's their business, and we built a business on top of their business, and they have
Hmm.
every right in the world to do whatever they want to do to search. If they just want to make it a single link and it's their own content, that's on them. It's
Yeah.
their website. They can do whatever we want. We all, as a public service, get to use it, and we can choose to go to DuckDuckGo, which a lot of people are doing. That's the
Oh,
other thing.
yeah.
That's the other thing about all of this that is maddening crazy. We didn't stop ranking high on Bing, and I'm not saying we as in just Cooking Shoe did not, but a lot of these websites, if the content was total shit, you would think that it would have stopped ranking across all of the search engines. That's not true at all.
Right.
These people still rank high on DuckDuckGo, on Bing, and every other search engine you can think of. The rankings stayed the same. It's just Google rankings, which is
Yeah.
again, it's Google's, it's their business. They can do whatever they want. But why bring these people in to just in the end say, just wanted to look you in the eyes and tell you you're screwed. Thank you
Yeah.
for coming, though. It was fun. I don't know. I don't get it. What do you think?
Ah, I mean, it's hard for me to have a strong opinion because I'm not as closely involved in it as you are. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm just looking at it from a user standpoint, which is what is the most convenient and what is the most trustworthy way to find sources, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's my priority. My
And I
priority
think that's a
is
good point and a good
yeah.
question. Yeah.
Like how do I know that I'm being fed the most trustworthy source? Because that's the other thing too, right? Like
I don't think you do.
unless you are familiar with like the big names, but then how do you know what the big names are? Well, because they're constantly being put in your face.
Mm-hmm.
So there comes a point where maybe they just have a really great marketing team, but it's a really crappy source. You know, they don't fact check or they don't um provide sources. It's all opinions, which there is nothing wrong with opinions, but if you are looking for
Sure.
facts, if you're looking for actual resources, you know, you want to make sure that they're legitimate sources. And
Yeah. I agree.
yeah,
I agree.
so at what
A-
point does
And
that
listen,
balance?
I am
Because it is a balance
very,
at this point, right? Like something has
very
to be given up.
biased in this
Yeah.
conversation. I'm
Yeah.
very biased in this conversation. So, I mean, you're right. Uh, what you just said, though, made me think of one of my wife's biggest complaints. Martha Stewart ranks super high for a lot of her
Hmm.
recipes. And I
Hmm.
like Martha. I'm a big free Martha. I wish I had the t-shirt. I'm a big Martha fan.
Yeah.
Um, but she has the highest number of complaints about her recipes of any website I've ever seen. People complain constantly in the
Mm,
comments about her content. They hate it. But yet
yeah.
she ranks so high because she is Martha Stewart.
She has a
And I just don't
phenomenal
know if that
marketing. Yeah.
exactly. And that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. How
Hmm.
is that good content? I think maybe she should get knocked down a few notches so that she has, because you know she's not making that content.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe she has to go talk to her team and be like, what the hell are you guys doing here? Why does everybody complain all the time?
Right.
You
Yeah.
know? But she doesn't have to because she's always going to be in the top.
Yep.
Eh, oh, it's maddening.
It's very confusing.
It really is. And I think that's the whole reason I wanted to talk about this because it's very confusing to have Google bring in these people to just look them in the eye and go, yeah, you have some really great content and we're never going
Hmm.
to show it to people again. So you should just move on with your life.
Yeah.
It's just a strange, everybody's just so confused in the
Yeah.
industry. Everybody's just so like, why are we doing this? What is going on?
Hmm.
I don't know. It's sad. And that's all I got.
Well,
Thanks for
and
listening to me whine.
well, I was going to ask too, like how I know you were saying that the creators are being told maybe it's time to move on kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, but what about the people that are going to continue trying anyway? Because yeah, Google may be saying maybe it's time to move on, but what if that's just the default response of, well, it is what it is for right now.
Well, and let me explain something. By the way, Google still ranks new websites. Okay.
Okay.
So there are people that have started new websites since the helpful content ended, the update
Hmm.
ended, created new websites, get them to rank in Google. What Google is saying is the sites that were hit specifically by that helpful content update that are even good quality according to the people that wrote the algorithm are looking at it and going, this is good content, but we're sorry, your site has been hit and therefore we don't know how to fix it. And so you should move on.
Okay. Okay. So, okay. Well, then I have a question then that maybe the listeners would be more interested in, which is, does this mean when it comes to, because people come to me all the time asking about, do you have a recommendation for SEO? Do you have a
Mm-hmm.
recommendation for a like somebody that focuses on SEO or a firm that, you know, what they do is get you ranked on Google and things like that. And
Oh, I
my
can talk a
default
lot about that.
answer, well, my default answer recently has been, why is it important for you to rank right now? Because the Google algorithm keeps changing,
Mm-hmm.
and right now, if your focus is, well, I want to become like I want to show up on page 1 of Google search or whatever it is, right? It's like, okay, but are you using your website as a lead generator? Are you using your website as
Yeah.
a sales page? Are you using your website as informational? Like, what is the purpose of your website? Because that's the thing that most business owners, they don't know. They're like, oh, well, I have a website because, businesses should have a website. And it's like, okay, but
Mm-hmm.
what is the
Mm-hmm.
goal of your site? Because that's where I pause on whether or not to recommend. Yes, you should absolutely focus on SEO ranking. Like local businesses, I believe local businesses that offer a service, yes, I think they should be focusing on making sure that their website is designed to be a lead generator. Because how
Mm-hmm.
many times
Mm-hmm.
do you search for housekeeping services near me, housekeeping services
Yeah, it's
in
big,
this
big
zip
search.
code,
Yeah.
and then you want to make sure that your website is set up to be able to capture information of the visitors, right? So that in that instance, I'm like, yes, I absolutely think that you should go ahead and invest because it is an
Mm-hmm.
investment. You should invest in focusing on local marketing
Mm-hmm.
with SEO and all that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then there are other people who are coaches and and
Yeah.
they have a lot of content, right? That they put out there and their website is more, I mean, yes, it's still lead generation, but it's more informational because people are going to the coaches'
Yeah.
websites to get more information about them, which helps the user or the purchaser
Mm-hmm.
determine, do I want to work with this person?
Mm-hmm.
And that's different. And in that
Mm-hmm.
case, I'm like, I don't think it makes sense for you to focus on SEO because people aren't looking for coaches near me unless it's,
Mm-hmm.
like a running coach or,
Mm-hmm.
some sort of like in-person kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
but if it's a worldwide, like again, I pause and I'm like, that's a big investment if you want to focus on like marketing and building your brand to where it is renowned worldwide. Because
Mm-hmm.
to rank for the certain keywords that you're saying, it's like, do you know how
Yeah.
many people do you know how many people search for that or have that on their website? Or it's just it's very loosey goosey generic, like yeah, it's just going to pull whatever. I don't know. See, I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to SEO, but when
No, you're nailing it, by the way.
for strategy, like strategy, that's where I'm like, okay, what is the point? What is your goal? That's what I want to know. And then I can
So
point you to the direction of somebody who could help you.
right. So with local SEO, I would highly, strongly, dramatically recommend that you focus on having a physical location and showing up in the maps and getting reviews.
Hmm.
That will do you far better than trying to rank with a piece of content
Mm.
on the first
Yeah,
page of Google in
right.
today's world.
Yeah.
No, it is no, no. It's just it's ridiculous. I mean, at Fred's company, my buddy that I've been working with for the past well this year, um, he subcontracts. In other words, he builds websites for large SEO companies,
Hmm.
clients, and those clients are paying these SEO companies. This is not proprietary information because you can look it up. Between $10,000 and $50,000 a month to
Hmm.
try to rank.
Right, right, right.
Um, so when you try to rank organically as a business, you are going up against large sums of money being spent to try to rank.
Yeah.
So unless you have a tremendous amount of time to build a lot of content and you have
Mm-hmm.
several years to wait for that shit to rank,
Mm-hmm.
the only thing you can do is focus on your local pack reviews. That's it, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
wouldn't even try otherwise.
Yeah. Well, and that was the other thing. So there is because me and definitions, it's very important to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
that
Sure.
when people come to me and they say, I need help with SEO, I'm always like, well, what does SEO mean to you?
Yeah,
Like, I know,
exactly.
I know it's
Such a good question.
search engine optimization or whatever, but what does SEO mean to you? And for some people, it means, oh, content and keywords. Okay, great. And then other people, it's exactly what you said. Oh, it's showing up in, on maps and reviews and all that kind of stuff. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, let's define SEO first. What does that mean
Mm-hmm.
to you and your business? And then secondly, define what is the purpose of your website.
Right. Yeah, and that is so important. And it's also so hard. Small business owners, Fred has literally almost built 1,000 websites now since
Hmm.
we originally started DWD a decade ago. I think he told me now it's 11 years since he and I started that business.
Oh, happy
I know.
11-year anniversary.
I think, yeah, it's his business now. But regardless,
Yeah,
he's up to almost 1,000 websites. Like I think he'll cross over 1,000 for the year's over.
that's a lot of
That
websites.
is a lot of websites, a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
And because you get to watch so many of the
Yeah.
businesses shut down, of course.
Hmm.
Um, but you also get to see why is like, wow, this company became you can't ever judge it either, by the way.
Hmm.
Over the years, he's tried to guess of who he thinks is going to be successful or not successful. He
Hmm.
never gets it right. He never knows. It is
Well,
so
sure.
random, but the success is random too. But I can tell you this, out of all of those websites, very few of them get a lot of traffic to their website.
Hmm.
They're the ones that are successful use their website almost like a modern day business card, and they
Yeah.
get their business through networking and things like that. I feel like I need to sneeze. Anyway, I think the questions that you are asking are the hardest questions for people to ask, and they're
Hmm.
the best questions that they could be asked. It is an act of kindness that you are doing that
Yeah.
because it's so true. It is so true. You got to know why what you want specific. You got to be so specific,
Hmm.
so specific of what do you want out of this? What do you want it to
Yeah.
do? And most people they just want to get a client, man.
Right.
They just want
Yeah.
to get a client. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, I can't tell you how many websites I've built, like
Oh, me
just
too.
yeah, like I've built websites, I've helped people build website, or I've
Mm-hmm.
helped companies build their websites and things like that. But yeah, it always comes down to what is the point of this website? Because you can have the most beautiful, like user-friendly experience website, but when it comes down to it, it's like, what do you want it to do?
Yeah.
Because the only way people are going to see it is based on how you're going to get them there. But how you get them there is if that is the end goal, okay, well, then, yeah, work backwards from that. If the end goal is to get clients, okay, is it to convert them on the website? Like you want
Yeah.
that to be a sales page and you want them to click buy. Like
Right.
that's a sales website. Or do you want to capture their information so that you can nurture them? Okay, that's a lead generation website.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it, like I said, purely informational? You just want people to be able to go there and then like get to know you, get to know the company, get to know like how you could help them. But the lead generation and the capturing, like the sales conversion part happens elsewhere. Okay, that's a different thing. Like it's just like social media. You have social media for your business, right? Whether that's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever it may be, you can use social media and have an account for your business. But each social media platform could serve a different purpose.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean,
And that's why I
And
think that's why
what
people get overwhelmed, because there's so many options. It comes back to the choices that you were saying before. People like choices, right? But
mm-hmm,
sometimes you have too many. And that's the reason
right.
why a lot of smart marketers, they tell their clients, if you want to do social media management, like, or if you want to do social media marketing, what is what platform makes the most sense for your business? Like, is your business very visual? Okay, let's stick with like Instagram. Is your business more visual, like video visual? Then let's go to TikTok. Is
Yeah.
yours more professional and you have like long form content? Okay, maybe we focus on LinkedIn. It all depends. And that's why they say focus on one thing, get really good on that one platform,
Mm-hmm.
and then repurpose what you've created onto the other platforms. And so it's a it's a pick one.
I
Can't
know,
do
I
all of
know, and I
it.
know it's so frustrating,
It
but it
is.
takes a long time. Like
It does.
we're in a lot of ways, we're starting over with cooking too, and we're taking a risk to
Hmm.
regrow it into something different other than Google, of course. And
Yeah.
so we have a 3-year plan. I when I started this, I had a 3-year plan. And now
Hmm.
I have a new 3-year plan. Three
Right.
years from now, most likely, I'll need another new for 3-year
Right.
plan, you
Yeah.
know? And but the point of that is nothing that I do is going to change our lives in a month, in 2 months.
Right.
Whatever you're going to do to launch your business, like you said, pick one thing and focus on it all the way through.
It's a
You know,
long game.
it is a long game. You launch your business with either money in the bank
Hmm.
or clients in the bank.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it's again, it goes back to it took 10 years to become an overnight success.
that's right. That's right.
So,
Oh my God, we're just preaching at this point. But yes,
yeah.
it's so important. It's so hard. And I am
Mhm.
so sorry to the people that went to this
Yeah.
conference, by the way. I just want to go back to that for a second and just say I'm so
Yes,
sad.
yes.
I'm so sad for us. I'm so sad for all of these people. Um, and if you're starting a new business, it's not hopeless. You just have
Hmm.
to think about it differently, and
Yeah.
you have to know that things change. We had a good thing going with Google and things change, and that is how business works.
Yeah.
It is not a constant flow. It is not a
Hmm.
steady flow. And I have to go to the restroom. So
Okay.
I drink almost all of this water while we've been talking.
Oh my
Um
goodness.
no, I'm like,
Well,
well,
this
no
is a
wonder I
good
gotta go.
stopping point then.
Yeah, I guess so. Um
Well,
okay.
if you guys have more questions about the Google helpful content update,
Content
I
up.
see, I don't
Yeah.
even know what it's called.
I know. I know.
If
You'll
you
put
have
these
more
links.
questions about it for Renee.
Sure, ask me away. I know this was mostly just a rant, but if you made it this far, go read the Marie Haynes article. It's
Mhm.
really good. It's long, so you can skim it, but it's got some really meaty stuff in there. And this is not just about bloggers. This
Right.
is also about business owners and
Hmm.
their small business websites.
Yeah.
And all of these things affect anyone that uses Google. And I think the takeaway is Google. I know I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. I don't think Google knows why the algorithm is working the way it works. I am convinced that they have lost control of their
Oh,
AI,
absolutely.
of their AI and their algorithm. I am absolutely convinced. And this event where they're asking the creators of what they think, the humans that Google think is good content to come and
Hmm.
talk to them about it. This was for
Hmm.
Google to learn information of what is good content now? What do we do?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what to do? I mean, it makes no sense. It's completely, the whole thing is illogical. It
Yeah.
just makes no sense. I don't understand.
Oh
And
man.
so,
Well, maybe
um,
we could put together some resources too for people. Like we can add it to the description.
mhm.
Um and of course we're going to have the links to Marie's posts and Mike's posts.
Yeah.
But we
Mhm.
could also include some additional resources where people can kind of like read up on.
Oh, Marie put a ton of them in her article. That's why I think it's a good one.
Perfect.
So
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
I
Then
100% Marie's article is sufficient. So
great.
that's even where I got the link to Mike. I just think since
Oh,
we mentioned
okay,
him, we
even
should put
better.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Um,
stressing the importance of skimming Marie's posts. Even if you don't read
yeah.
all of it, skim it and then look at the sources that she provides, because
Yeah. Yeah.
that's going to give you so much more information and give you a better framework in your head of what is happening and how it'll affect you.
Absolutely. Because if you have a website, this affects you.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
All right. Well,
Okay.
thanks, Renee, for bringing that up. That was a good one.
Yeah. You're welcome. Um,
And
all
thanks
right.
to
Cool.
everyone for listening.
You bet. Okay.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.